What were the key takeaways for you from these latest earnings?
Sure, I was glad to be here. Despite the global pandemic, we still have more than 20% higher revenue, and as you said, the profit is more than 700 million. So it's a fantastic result for the company. It's all the dedication from all the close to 7,000 employees.
How much progress are you making on these COVID-19 treatments?
Yeah, we are a global company enabling anyone to any company to work on the COVID-19 treatments. Currently, we have more than 10 programs ongoing right now. They are not vaccines yet. They're mostly antibodies. So this is used to treat the very sick patients or to prevent the COVID-19 diseases. We are very fortunate. We have already enabled 3 programs in the clinic. We have a couple more to go in the next couple of months.
Okay, in the next couple of months, does that suggest to you that by the end of this year, you will have some antibody treatments then for this virus?
Yeah, it's very likely. So we already have a couple of clients from US, from Singapore, from Europe, and from China. Their goal is actually to be able to get the product approved by end of this year.
Right, Chris. And David here, by the way, thanks for coming on the program. I don't suppose you could share a little bit more details on that, on perhaps who might be able to get that to the market by the end of this year?
This is very confidential, but we have been working with a US company, European companies, Singaporean companies, and also Chinese companies. We are a global player. We help global companies to develop those type of medicines.
That's fair enough. And I think as long as we do get something, it really doesn't matter who makes it, right? Well, ideally speaking, if you take politics out. Now, just back, I guess, to what this means for your company. And obviously, you and your peers are an essential part of the supply chain of getting drugs to the market from I guess, the planning stages as well. I'm sure this has affected how you now think about expanding. Expanding is one thing. Do you have the money, though, and capital to actually make your execute your capacity plans ahead, or do you need to raise some money?
That's a great question. So we currently have sufficient cash. We have about $1.5 billion in the bank, and we have another line of credit close to 500 million. So technically, we can use about $2 billion to invest in our plan for our investment in US, in Europe, and in China, to make sure we have a very robust supply chain.
Okay. Sure, and partly, Chris, the reason I bring that up is a lot of Hong Kong-listed Chinese companies have taken this opportunity to raise money on the mainland as well. I'm wondering whether or not that's something that's within the radar of the company of perhaps listing some of your shares on the Chinese mainland.
That's not in the current plan. Again, we have been well recognized by the global investor. As you mentioned earlier in the program, we just been added to the Hang Seng Index. So it's a great recognition for our efforts in really developing the biotech industry, empowering global companies to discover, develop, and manufacture biologics to treat patients like the COVID-19 pandemic right now.
So, Chris, you talk about that cash that you have on hand. As you look to expand, David, of course, touched on this. Are you looking then in terms of capacity to expand capacity? And if so, what would that mean for CapEx? And are mergers or acquisitions something that you're looking at as well?
Yeah, we are spending about $1 billion in US and Europe to build our supply chain, to make sure the medicine we developed can be manufactured at large scale. So we're talking about we're talking about biologics, and rarely you talk about biologics in metric ton. Our goal is to be able to make metric ton scale of medicines in US and in Europe. And because of that, we are investing about $1 billion overseas. And we are, as you mentioned, we have plenty of cash to do that. So in regards to the M&A, yeah, sorry for that. Regarding M&A, we have
Chris, please go on. Yeah.
We have a very active plan to look at all the companies out there we can potentially partner with. So we have a very active M&A plan. And as you know, earlier this year, we acquired a facility in Germany from Bayer. So that's it's very active. Yeah, we'll announce it as it goes through.
Chris, what fits your portfolio then in terms of acquisitions or possible acquisitions?
We typically look at mostly the facilities because we build our technologies ourselves. We have what we call the platform, and then we want to build a manufacturing facility closer to our customer. So there will be facilities in US, in Europe, in Singapore, and in China. That's our goal. So the earlier Bayer acquisition, that was the facility acquisition from Bayer. That was a very typical example of what we wanted to do in the near future.
On the revenue outlook, Chris, I'm just looking at your financials here in renminbi, of course. 1.6 billion revenue 2017, 2.5 2018, almost 4 billion as of last year. Do you think you'll get to 10 billion in annual revenue by 2022? Or is that too early?
we have a very aggressive plan. We'll see how we can achieve. But near term this year we think we can grow at least 30%, and hopefully in the next in 2021, 2022 we can actually grow faster than this year because we were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic this year.
Right. So I'm just doing my simple math here, Chris. 30% on top of last year and 30% this year. That probably gets you to that number we talked about. But I'll let you confirm that next time. Talk to us then. A lot of people are out of jobs. You're obviously hiring and you're expanding. Where are you hiring? In what areas of the world and in what functions?
Yeah, we're adding a couple of hundred people in US and Europe. We're adding another couple of hundred people here in China. So it's very balanced. Mostly actually starting from this year, our focus will be mostly US and Europe, growing much faster than we're hiring faster in US and Europe than what we're doing here in China.
Okay, Chris, before we let you go, just one last question, bringing it back to the COVID-19 treatments. Are you any clearer in terms of pricing, and how much pressure are companies like yours under to ensure that pricing is essentially saleable politically, whether in China or in other parts of the world?
That's a great question. So we are, so in terms of COVID-19 treatment, we have the best speed. Right now, I feel like we have a calling to do the right thing, right? So we're moving the program as fast as we can. Typically, it takes 12 to 18 months to put the treatment program into the clinic. This year, we did it actually in 3 to 6 months. So we cut our timeline very significantly. So once the product is on the market, then we're talking about how we can make sure it's affordable. So we have already all those planning piece designed in, so that make sure we can if the treatment is feasible, it's proven in the clinic, we can actually make sure it's affordable. It's affordable globally, not only in the US and Europe, but also in emerging countries. That's our goal.